Welcome to Analyst Talk with Jason Elder. It's like coffee with an analyst, or it could be whiskey with an analyst reading a spreadsheet, linking crime events, identifying a series, and getting the latest scoop on association news and training. So please don't beat that analyst and join us as we define the law enforcement analysis profession one episode at a time.
How we doing, analyst? Jason Elder here with an IALEIA update. And with me, as always, is Alexander Gulde. Alex, how we doing?
Doing great, Jason. How are you tonight?
I am doing very well. Obviously, we're going to talk about IALEIA election results, and you being an election chair, that well for you. But you also have big news in your life. You have left me in Tallahassee alone and have ventured across the country to California to take a new position.
That is correct. I've taken a new position in California near San Francisco, and I am now an intelligence analyst for a federal government agency.
All right. And so far, so good?
So far, so good.
Right, man. And yeah, you were my only friend that I didn't meet through my wife or kids.
I'm sorry to leave
or my
you.
neighbor, right?
Yeah.
So, man, well, I will certainly miss our get-togethers, drinking and talking about the profession. But I am certainly excited for your new adventure, and especially in the federal realm.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
So, all right. So let's talk about the elections. So we just went through this process, and we had a bunch of candidates, which we had talked about before the election period began. It was a great turnout in terms of people throwing their name in the hat and putting their name out there to be part of this process. And so we had the training one had 4 different candidates, which was the most of any positions, but there was 2s and even 3s in there. So almost every position was contested, which is good to see that people are willing to volunteer for the association. So without any further ado, I won't bury the lead too much. I'll just let you read the results on what the election was.
Yes. So the association announced the results officially on March 10th. But for those who have not gotten the message or prefer to get their association news through Analyst Talk with Jason Elder, let me help you out here. So for the position of president, David McLaughlin was re-elected. For the position of vice president, we have Phil Powell continuing to serve in this role. For the role of treasurer, it is Miss Peggy Pingle. We have a new secretary, Miss Sarah Lee, out of Vancouver, Canada. Kelly Kimsey is continuing to serve as chapter director. And then we have a new communications director, Miss Olivia Moore. She's out of Florida, working for Florida Department of Law Enforcement. We have a new international director, Miss Milena Bruns. Then membership director, Dr. Jonathan Larkin, continues to work in that role. Same with Miss Tracy Lemke, who will continue to be the partnership director. And then Joe Stobie as professional standards director, continuing in that role. And Miss Marina Cerron Perez, continuing as training and development director.
Okay. And then Milena, being the international director, where is she from?
So she works, I want to make sure I get this right. She is based in the Netherlands, I believe, and I think she worked for the International Criminal Court.
I think it's interesting. It seems like a lot of them did have a tie to different IALEIA chapters. And so that's an interesting way to, I guess, getting the foot in the door is to get yourself associated or volunteer first with the chapters and then have the potential to move up in these elections.
Without a doubt, I think some of these roles can be a little intimidating. And if you want to make an impact, but you're not ready to step on the big stage, I would highly encourage people to start at the chapter level, because the mechanisms are very similar, if not even identical, for how things work. And so if that's something that you're interested in, I think this is a great way to grow and to build and to develop. And if your ultimate goal is to serve on the international board, I would highly recommend starting at a chapter somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then just remind us, I know we talked about this last time, but when does these new positions start?
So they will officially take office July 1,
Okay. Yeah.
and then
It's
they'll serve for a 2-year term.
remind me again, is there term limits?
We do not have term limits. No, there's
Okay.
no term limit.
Okay. It's a pretty quick process. We just talked about it seemed like just a month ago that we were talking, and you have your period where people throw their name in a hat, and then you have a couple weeks to vote, and then you certainly need your time to calculate all the votes and to make sure that everything gets certified correctly, and then you have the results. So this whole process has can can be done within a month.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. When it's interesting when we look at our bylaws and then our elections manual, it's still very much based on paper-based procedures and ballots. So some of the timelines that we have would are easy enough to manage when it is an all electronic based voting system as what we're using. If we were still using paper ballots, some of those timelines would be pretty tight because we would have to rely
Mm.
on mailing them across the country or across the world technically to do this. So that's one of the things I want to look at into the future, see how we can maybe improve some of our processes. Not that they're bad, but I just want to look at them a little bit because they have not really changed significantly for a number of years. The other thing I wanted to say was I wanted to say thank you to my elections committee members who helped me verify the results and certify the election. And those were Miss Alana Zavala Hernandez and Mr. Bob Morehouse. Both are near here to me in California,
Mm-hmm.
and I greatly appreciated their help in doing so. So thanks again for all your help on that one.
All right. Very good. Other thing that's interesting here as I'm looking at this list and the results of the 11 positions, 7 of these folks that were voted in are certified,
Yeah,
CICA certified. I think that's pretty impressive that you have this many board members that are certified.
I agree. I think it shows a long-term commitment to the association, and I think that's something that they can be proud of and we can be proud of.
Yeah, I think it's obviously to take that test and to go through that process is quite an endeavor, and it's different from other certification tests that I've known about because they actually there's a written portion to that as well. So which makes
There
it
is.
a little bit more challenging, and but it's great that there are several people now that have gotten certified through IALEIA, and now that over half of them are the board is certified. So that's great to see.
Right. I agree. So I wanted to mention something else. We've talked about it previously during the pre-call. So I want to talk a little bit about turnout and
Hmm.
number of members that voted. So we had a little over 3,600 members eligible to vote. And when I say eligible members, we're talking regular members in good standing. So this doesn't include student members and certain other categories, associate members who are, of course, welcome members of the association, but are just not eligible to participate in elections based on the bylaws that we have. So out of those 3,600 members, 386 members voted, and that results in an election turnout of 11%. And 2 years ago, last term, we had a turnout of 8%, and so we've definitely improved. I am still in the process of collecting data as to whether this is normal or not for associations of our size and our profession. So I'm continuing to do it. It just does feel a little low
Yeah.
personally, and I would like to see more people engage, and that's one of the most basic ways of engaging in the association. I have to assume that those people that didn't vote feel everything is fine or that their input doesn't matter or that everything is good and they just don't need to worry about it. I'm not mad at anybody who doesn't vote. I'm just trying to understand why the turnout is the way it is. And I don't have an answer for this. This may not be something that can be resolved in a call just for a few minutes. But if listeners out there, members, non-members, have any thoughts on that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. I want to hear what your thoughts are. And most importantly, if there's something that you think we could try to increase turnout, I would be all ears.
Yeah. How can folks get a hold of you?
Well, the easiest way is to email me at elections@ialea.org,
Yeah.
and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I'm curious as well why people do not vote. And I'm still wondering how many people are just aware. Are they receiving the emails? Are they receiving the information that's going out via social media? And obviously it's on the website. So is it that they know? And as you mentioned, they either think everything's fine, don't think they need to vote, or they don't know the candidates well enough to make an informed decision, or maybe don't understand the positions. And this has come up. You mentioned other associations, and I know this comes up in other associations as well. It's like, what is the purpose of people joining the association, right? If people are joining the association to get a discount on training, well, that's their purpose. Or if they're signing up for an association to get a discount on the conference, that's might be their motivation. So that's just the realm that they stay in, right? While they are members by the letter of the law, they're not really invested to the point of wanting to vote on leadership.
Right. And that's the thing, is like, I can't obviously fault anybody for wanting to do that. This is certainly a member's prerogative to choose their level of engagement.
Yeah. From your vantage point in the elections chair, you'd want to see that number at least up to like 40, 50%. You would at least like to see like half the members vote, right? That would be a really good goal. And I think it does start with what you said, is like, okay, let's start with, why do people not vote? And then figure out a plan of how to encourage people to vote.
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, these are things that I would love to tackle as I move forward, just on a personal interest. I am a political scientist by training first and foremost, and I firmly believe that civic engagement, and this engagement in a professional association, is a form of civic engagement. That matters for stability, for continuity, and for sustainability of the organization. And so we're not in any danger as an association. I don't want to leave anybody with that in mind. I think we're doing fine, but I would love to see that number be higher, because that means that more people are engaged, thinking about it, and contribute to it.
Yeah. So please reach out. Again, elections@ialea.org. And we'll also put that in the show notes as well to make sure that people have it. So please email Alex and give your thoughts. Alex, I'll say this, if it makes you feel any better, IACA, they just had a special election for VP of Admin. They had 6 candidates and about 200 people voted out of the 7,000 members that IACA has. So that was a way smaller turnout for a special election. And I think last year for the president election, I want to say 600 people voted at the 7,000. So that was more on par with what IALEIA has seen over the years, like a 8-12% turnout. So you don't have these obviously every year. It's every 2 years. IACA has the way they have their positions staggered. There's election going on every year. So it's just a little bit different, but I'm sure Alex would be happy to hear from you, as we mentioned, and would look for even ideas on how to improve. So if you do vote, and you might have an idea on how to increase engagement, how to get the vote, get people out and voting, I'm sure Alex would like to hear that as well.
Of course, absolutely.
Well, good deal. I can't remember. Was this just your second election since you've been elections chair? All right. So how's it feel now that you're a sophomore now? You finished your sophomore round here. So you getting the hang of it now? Was it better this year?
Yeah, I understand the system that we're using, the software that's built into our membership management package, and I think it actually worked pretty well. I'm curious, right? Like kind of what we were talking about before. I'd love to learn a little bit more about breakdown, about background, about demographics, those kinds of things. And so I'm excited to have had the chance to do this. I'm glad everything went well, and I'm looking forward to doing it again in 2 years. But in between, I want to genuinely look at what's working, what could be done better. So I'm hoping to do that. But yeah, I feel good. I'm glad, and I'm glad that everything went without a hitch. So.
All right, well, very good. All right, well, let's finish up with the conference because the conference is quickly approaching, and it begins with what we'll call the pre-show, begins on Sunday, April 6th, and it's in Vancouver. We talked about it a little bit at the last update and put in a bunch of links in the show notes, and we'll do the same thing this go around, and so that for those that are going. Should be a great conference. It's going to be fascinating to see what the turnout is, given that it's in Vancouver. It's outside of the U.S. and to see what the turnout's going to be and what the vibe is. And to capture all of that, we're going to record a special podcast while you are standing there at Vancouver taking it all in.
Yeah, I'll jump into that briar patch. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to get final things in place to make sure I'm good to go, but I'm feeling pretty confident, and I'm looking forward to experiencing the conference Canadian style.
Yeah, no, Canadian conference. Yes. So, yeah, well, if you are going to the conference, seek out Alex and just give him your 2 cents and tell him what you think about the conference, because he's obviously looking for different perspectives on the conference, and give us plenty of food for thought to talk about when we talk about it during the conference.
Absolutely. No, I'm looking forward to seeing old friends and make some new friends. And if you needed a reason to talk to me, you can talk to me about elections. You can talk to me about association. You can talk to me about the podcast. Whatever you want, you can find me, and I'm going to be happy to chat with you.
All right. Very good, Alex. All right. So the next time we hear from you, you'll be in a different country.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, safe travels. Congratulations on the new gig. It's always great talking to you, Alex. Until next time, be safe.
Always a pleasure, Jason.
Thank you for making it to the end of another episode of Analyst Talk with Jason Elder. You can show your support by sharing this and other episodes found on our website at www.leapodcasts.com. If you have a topic you would like us to cover or have a suggestion for our next guest, please send us an email at leapodcasts@gmail.com. Till next time, analysts, keep talking.